The Premier League season is coming to an end, and 2023-24 has blessed the fans with drama, memorable moments, and incredible quality once again. In a huge part of the campaign, 3 teams were in the title race: Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City. Although Jurgen Klopp's men made a few wrong steps, the battle was more exciting than ever. And today, we'll take a look at some of the highlights, outlining the 8 things that we learned from the 2023-24 Premier League season. So make sure you stick around till the end, and especially for number 5, which will surely surprise you. Yes, Aston Villa did it. After 43 years away from the Champions League, the Villains qualified for the most prestigious club tournament, and they did it in an extraordinary fashion, having won the most points in the direct matches between the top 6, including 2 wins over Arsenal, a win over Man City, a win over Spurs, a win and a draw against Chelsea, and a draw versus Liverpool. Speaking of their performance, they are definitely in that group of European teams that have shocked the world this season, along with Bayer Leverkusen, Girona, Bologna, and Brest. Villa play beautiful and effective football, proving that you do not need to have the best players in the world to be one of the top teams. Spanish specialist Unai Emery, generally known as a tournament coach who has won the Europa League on several occasions in the past, has been at the forefront of Aston Villa's efforts in the league this season, and finally achieved the team's ultimate goal for the campaign. However, there were times during the season when Aston Villa looked vulnerable, especially when some of their top players were injured. Yes, key men such as Tyrone Mings and Emi Buendia were sidelined at the start of the season, and their absences have been dealt with. But the sidelining of goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez, for example, has left a bitter taste in the mouths of Villa fans. The most recent example was the defeat to Olympiacos in the Conference League semifinals, when second-choice goalkeeper Robin Olsen wasn't convincing at all. So Villa definitely needs to expand their squad in the summer, bringing more depth and quality. And if they can do that, we might really see an even better display from Emery's boys in the Champions League. Yeah, this may sound like a bit of an odd take, but Haaland showed this season that he is capable of leading Man United's attacking line for years to come, being one of the highlights for the Red Devils. He suffered a number of injuries, but especially in the middle of the campaign, he was something that Man United fans hadn't seen in recent times. A typical number 9 who is a constant threat in the box. When it comes to his stats, he started 23-24 slower than expected, scoring mainly in the Champions League and even topping the tournament's top goal scorer list at one point. His first goal in the Prem came at the end of December, when he completed a thrilling comeback against Aston Villa at Old Trafford. From then on, Haaland had 10 goal contributions in 8 games over the next 2 months, before another injury in mid-February seemed to halt his momentum. Nevertheless, he's a name to watch in Man United's future and has the whole potential to mark an era with the Red Devils. When Ange Postecoglou took over at Tottenham, there were few who believed he could raise the bar in just a few months. Indeed, up until November, Spurs looked like a team with the potential to not only finish in the top 4, but to challenge for the title. However, a poor run of form since December has dampened the positive impressions. But Spurs definitely have a foundation to build on, starting with the upcoming transfer window. Last summer, Tottenham made some strategic moves, bringing in the likes of James Maddison, Destiny Udogie, Mickey Van de Ven, and Brennan Johnson. Although unknown to the English public, apart from Maddison of course, these players have become key elements in Tottenham's revamped post-Harry Kane squad. Yes, Spurs are going to miss out on Champions League football next season, but a Europa League place will allow them to gradually build up their standards and create a solid squad for the future. Brighton were one of the sensations last season, finishing 6th and qualifying for the Europa League. Led by the departing Roberto De Zerbi, a name that wasn't established as a top manager, the Seagulls were flying high. But their momentum was broken, and this season has been a completely different story. Before we begin our analysis though, it is fair to say that their downfall was probably expected after Brighton suffered a number of significant departures last summer, losing valuable players who formed the basis of their success. The team from South England had to deal without Moises Caicedo, Alexis McAllister, Robert Sanchez, and Levi Colwill. On the other hand, they have also failed to compensate for the changes with any significant transfers, and that has taken its toll. Brighton finished 11th in the table with 48 points. 14 fewer than they had at this time last year. The biggest drop-off from last season has been in defense. Yes, surprisingly, Brighton are actually more prolific in attack than they were 52 weeks ago. But they have been extremely vulnerable when they had to defend their goal. Brighton have now conceded 9 more goals than they did last season, which speaks volumes about their mediocre performance. That's right, you heard it here first. However, such a take shouldn't surprise you, especially when you consider Chelsea's financial resources since the takeover. And like any long-term project, their efforts are beginning to bear fruit. Yes, they're not title contenders, and they won't be playing in Europe again next season, but after all, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Just look at what happened to Man City after Sheikh Mansour brought in the big money in 2008. The Citizens finished 10th, 5th, and 3rd before winning their first Premier League title in 2012. Chelsea, on the other hand, already have the players who will form the backbone of their squad for years to come. Cole Palmer, arguably the player of the season, along with Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, and Christopher Nkunku, will certainly be part of the squad for the next couple of seasons, winning big trophies with the Blues. Man City won the Premier League title for a 4th consecutive time, despite the problems they faced in the middle of the season. Much of the points lost between September and December were due to the absence of Rodri, arguably the most important player in the league this season. Indeed, Man City have suffered 3 defeats in the Prem, and all 3, against Wolves, Arsenal, and Aston Villa, have come without the Spanish midfielder. On the other hand, Phil Foden has proved his worth in Pep Guardiola's system. The English maestro has scored 19 goals with 8 assists in the Premier League, making him the Citizens' top scorer after Erling Haaland. Speaking of the Norwegian, however, he's one of those players whose absence hasn't been a huge loss for Man City, judging by their results. Yes, he is a constant threat to the opposition with his physicality and goal-scoring prowess, but he has definitely slowed down a gear this year after the Ballon d'Or shouts in 2023. He has become less effective for the Citizens, making some dreadful misses in front of goal. And it could also be argued that most teams have a countermeasure in place if they put a strong defender marking him, such as Antonio Rudiger in the quarter-finals of the Champions League against Real Madrid. This season has seen Arsenal continue their massive growth in recent years. Even though they didn't win the title, the 23-24 season has been their most successful in over a decade, with a Champions League quarter-final finish and consistent title contention throughout the campaign. And while Arsenal's defense was rock solid with William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes, the Gunners were unplayable in attack, without even a typical striker playing for most of the time. Gabriel Jesus had a rotational role this season, but Arsenal were still the best attacking side in the league, scoring the most goals and having the highest goals per game ratio. Another interesting fact is that this season, actually Arsenal won more matches than the Invincibles side in 2004, mainly because of their brilliance in attack. This is good news for Mikel Arteta, who will be keen to bring in a new top striker over the summer, with Brentford's Ivan Toney and Napoli's Victor Osimhen currently being linked. This, in turn, will give the Spaniards side a further boost, and with a little more depth in their squad, they could even become a major favorite in the years to come. Yes, Sheffield broke the record for the most goals conceded in the Premier League. With the 3 goals they shipped against Spurs in the last round, Sheffield have now conceded 104 goals this season. Swindon Town have held the record of 100 goals conceded for 29 years, but Chris Wilder's men broke it. On the other hand, their goals per game conceded ratio, which is 2.77, is still worse than that of Swindon Town 29 years ago. By comparison, Swindon conceded 100 goals in 1994-95, but in 42 games, which works out to be 2.38 goals per game. Whatever happens from now on over the next couple of seasons, Sheffield will remain one of the worst teams in the history of the Premier League. They finished the 23-24 campaign with 16 points, with only 3 teams, Derby County in 2008 and Huddersfield in 2019, having a lower tally. If you enjoyed this one, please don't hesitate to leave a like, subscribe, and give your suggestions for entertaining series that you want to see here on Footy Flicks. Also, don't forget to check out some of our latest uploads. Stay awesome, and we'll catch you in the next one.